What's going on, y'all, and welcome back to another Chaos Zero Nightmare video. I know it's been a minute, but I'm here now, and my most asked question lately on my live streams has been who to grab with your selector. So we are currently level 51. We finished up the Order 10 if you guys want to come hang out during the streams. Live every single day. We've been making some great progress, but the game, there's a lot of game issues that I'm encountering that I think a lot of people are in terms of currency. Don't even get me started on the Owen drama. But anyways, that's not what this video is about. Like I said, the most common question has been about what to select on your combat rescue as soon as you hit those 300 summons, as some people are either getting close, they want to start planning out, or they're there already. So every single one of y'all watching will have your option to pick and choose one of the, I think it's 9 or 10 characters. Haru obviously not included, but I created a tier list and I want to go through all of that with you together based on my experience, especially talking with so many people now that the game's been out for quite a while. So let's get to it. I do have a few disclaimers, but let's open up the tier list. Alrighty, y'all, I have pulled up the tier list, but I want to make some quick disclaimers before anyone bites my head off, as it's happened to me many times during stream. But every single character is viable, so anyone that mains Magna, Orlea, or Luke, please don't get offended. Every character, the CZN developers did a great job at making all the characters viable. You could definitely complete the game with Magna, Luke, Orlea at the highest difficulties. Heck, you can even complete the entire game at the highest difficulty, you know, never summoning a character, 4 stars only. That being said, some characters I do believe will give you a easier time, have more versatility, and aren't punished by certain game modes. And we're going to break all of that down, okay? So this is all a subjective tier list. All tier lists are subjective. Take them with a grain of salt. But this is based off my own experience playing a majority of these characters. And then I have had a lot of experience and chances to talk with people that have mained each and every one of these characters, right? Even the ones that I haven't been able to play. So once again, all the characters are good. Just because they have some in B tier, that doesn't mean they're bad. I want you guys to ultimately pick whichever character interests you the most in terms of their play style or their looks. You have to like the play style, guys, because there is no auto for chaos. So even if Veronica or Mei Lin are stronger than Luke or Magna, if you more align with the counter play style, take the Magna. If you like Magna, you don't want to play any husbando characters, you don't want Hugo, then take Magna for example. Okay, so just an example, and let's jump straight into my explanation. Okay, so we did order it left to right and obviously top to bottom. All right, Haru is not in the selector, so we will not be discussing her today. Also, I don't believe they will be adding her retroactively as well as any other characters. That's just how Smilegate games usually go, but I could be wrong. And if she is added in, you know, post Haru banner leaving, then of course we'll make an updated guide. But let's start from the top, left to right. Like I said, I did order them, but honestly, it's more important about like SAB. The difference between SA and B is a lot different than like the difference between Veronica being placed here on the left compared to Mei Lin. But I did kind of place them in, you know, a little bit of order. So starting with Veronica, guys, I just pulled this character recently, but I've been hearing how strong she is for a while. And honestly, you know, based on her looks, she felt underwhelming. She looked underwhelming. But until you play her, until you dedicate a lot of gear to her, this character is incredible. She really does it all. She makes your team just more efficient because of the card draw. And the fact that she does a lot of damage too, and she's extremely versatile. She fits into any team. And if you're during your chaos runs, you can kind of just hopefully, you know, you get a nice epiphany on her Outbreak of War Ballista creation card. Meaning you could grab one that's giant ballista for AoE. You grab a piercing one if you want to fight bosses that have shield, or you want to take the save data. That's what I'm doing right now to fight Judas. She really can solo bosses on her own. Other than that, she's just a great card draw engine, which is extremely valuable. So think of her like a hybrid between like a Cassius plus a damage dealer, and she's so cost efficient that I think she just fits in almost any team, has great synergies with things like Khalipe and Mei Lin, and yeah, she just provides so much while offering a very, very simple, straightforward game plan that just works. It's efficient. It works in every mode. She's actually extremely efficient right now fighting, like I mentioned, Judas, one of the hardest bosses in the game. I really can't speak highly enough of her. I just really overlooked her in the beginning because, one, she just, to me, not an interesting looking character, but my God, if you take the value that she brings, you know, like in a card game, she is amazing, right? Every turn you get a ballista that can do so much damage because it scales extremely well. It's free, and then she's drawing cards for the rest of your team too. I don't even know what else to say other than this character is top tier, and probably, if you have no one else to pick, probably the most versatile and fits into the most teams. So if you want to take one thing away, it's probably just to grab Veronica. I also think she's going to be the most future-proof among this list because besides like Orlea, most of these characters I think are primarily maybe Khalipe and Magna withstanding. most of these are like straight damage dealers, right? Hugo, Mei Lin, Renoa. These are all just straight damage dealers that if you've ever played these kind of gacha games, they're the most likely to be power crept just because by simplicity, you know, other characters that get introduced after so many characters, you just have to have characters that are do the same similar thing but stronger. I don't know if you guys saw, but Yuki, I'm not going to talk about her leaked kit, but she looks very similar to Rin, but just even better possibly. Anyways, I think Veronica's kit is kind of unique, and so I think she will be future proof. So she is my #1 spot. Khalipe next, guys. And speaking of power creeps, apparently some leaks were saying that the ghost hand girl, I think her name is Yufina, might power creep Khalipe, but I don't really care. All I can tell you is that if that happens, I'll run 2 Khalipes then on 2 different teams. This girl is incredible. Not even talking about how strong she was in beta. Just right now, she is so good. If you were talking about any AoE stages, like the bug stage, I believe is Twin Shadows. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment. Whatever the bug stage is for Chaos. Anything with a lot of AoE, Khalipe is a monster at. Not only that, just any stage in general where you want some protection. Shields are extremely powerful in this game. Some modes you really want to have access to shields, as it does reduce some stress, as it does let you kind of either retain or let you preemptively mitigate some damage. And the higher, the higher difficulty you go, it is nicer to have shielding effects in the higher level chaos. I just think she does really so much for your team. She's very versatile too, just like Veronica. And I think that's why I rate these characters so high, is because unlike some of the other more niche characters here at the bottom, they kind of just fit into almost any team, and they just put in the work, right? They obviously have teams that are the most efficient with them between Veronica and Khalipe, but you really could just slot them in almost any team and they perform well. They don't need any specific like hardcore epiphanies. They kind of just work out the box. The designers of their cards just made them really work in general. And I think they can just fit in almost any game mode. That's going to be an important thing I talk about here too, guys, when we get to characters like Orlea. It's that certain game modes really punish these 2 characters. The basin, which I'll show you in game when we get there, where you need to finish, the stars in time, which I still need to wrap up and do. Anyways, moving right along, guys. Third in the list is Mei Lin. And I know Pride actually rated her low, but I think they brought her back up. This character, I think, is just so good. The main thing with her, YouTube, is that she's just brain dead easy to play. There is like a specific combo you guys can pull off if you want to pull off like 30, 50, 70k damage. I've seen even. Although with the bug save data, I think some of those might not be legit. Anyways, it is still very easy to pull off. The fact that her cards, her basic cards, she's the best basic card spammer in the game in terms of damage. Her Unity just makes that so easy as long as you get either the move or create epiphanies. And then you can even just stack passion damage scaling, where she can just nuke bosses out of nowhere. Even without that, she's just a very consistent damage dealer that doesn't need anything too particular. She scales well. She kind of just works out of the box. She doesn't need any crazy combos per se, right? There's that combo I'm talking about where you stack a bunch of passion, but even without that, she just works. Very easy to play. You just roll your face on the on the keyboard, play the cards, and she just does a lot of damage. Not only that, I think she's the best character at like tenacity breaking. They call it Ravage. And I think moving forward, it's going to be very important to have like those Ravage damage dealers, depending on how the end game shapes up with the new events and things like that. But for now, she's just incredibly easy to play, extremely powerful out the box. Not as versatile as like Veronica and Khalipe, as I think you do want to bring her like with some, at least another passion character. I actually was running her with Khalipe and Mika, so she still can work with anyone. But the more you give her, right, just like most DPS, you do kind of want to kind of build around her in general. I still think she's extremely easy to use, very versatile, high damage. Should be up here, no questions asked. Now, if you guys want Hugo to be in the 3rd spot, I think that's very valid. But I think I might be slightly biased on the Mei Lin. Hugo is a character I've not been lucky enough to pull, but I've seen this guy work with almost almost any team comp really that has low card cost spamming. So characters like Rin, characters like Mei Lin, characters like Tressa. I think he might even work with Yuki coming out soon. This guy just is so easy to enable. His cards are so good out of the box that sometimes getting epiphanies hurts him. He's like Mei Lin, just a different style of Mei Lin. All of the good things I said about her applies to him. Very easy to use, very straightforward, just works out of the box. And yeah, he does so much damage. And I think he's also, if this is important to you guys, one of the least, I would say, like, greedy for dupes. At least that's what I heard. So if you just want someone that's very easy and you want, like, I think bonus points, if your main team is, like, using Mika, I know he can work in a lot of non-Mika comps as well, where a lot of these 3 characters, they don't need Mika, but a lot of them want it. Where I think Hugo, his best teams actually don't involve Mika at all. Instead, it's units like Nia. Speaking of Nia, we have Renoa next. And Renoa, on my stream, I actually did catch a little flack. I really don't like this character's playstyle, but that doesn't mean she's bad. A lot of people think when I say I don't like running her, they think I imply she's bad. I have an E2 Renoa, and I'm sure if I put in the time to really learn her, give her the best team, which I think is something like Renoa, Nia, Cassius, or Renoa, Nia, Ray, which makes her a great option because, once again, just like Hugo, right, guys? Bonus points. She doesn't really need Mika on her team. So I think these two characters, maybe even Mei Lin, characters that don't need Mika are bonus points because you're going to need a secondary team. Anyways, an incredible damage dealer. The only problem I have with her is during the Chaos run, unlike Hugo, you really want to fish for specific epiphanies. If you don't get them, at least to me, a newer player to Renoa, and honestly, I've seen a lot of players tell me as well that they struggle playing Renoa because sometimes when you don't get the epiphanies, if you don't really understand all the branches and how to operate her, maybe assuming bad RNG, I think she does perform worse than other damage dealers like these two. So for those reasons, I think I just rate her slightly lower than the top tier, but I've seen some amazing, amazing Renoas. Just be careful in Chaos if you don't get the best RNG. Like, I think her cards are a little bit pickier, and I do think you do want to build around her even more so than the top 4 here. Next up, guys, is Rin, and everything I said about Renoa applies to Rin, but maybe even twofold. So once again, this character can do it all. I've seen her pull off some amazing showcase damages, but she isn't as easy to use and maybe requires a little more babysitting and save data than the top 4 in this list. That doesn't mean she's bad, though. She is incredible, and I think she's one of the best scalers in the game, maybe only beaten out by Luke. Now, be careful, guys, on selecting her. Maybe wait till we see the Yuki, or if you haven't seen the leaked info, go take a look. Once again, anything that's leaked, never take that for granted. We're going to see the official video soon, but if you want to just at least prepare yourself, look at Yuki before you check out Rin, as I've seen a lot of people compare the two. But if we're ignoring Yuki, I think Rin, if you like how she looks and you want a crazy damage dealer, she is incredibly good. So I think her and Renoa are kind of fulfilling similar roles in terms of, like, if you dedicate yourself to them and you give them a good team, they can really, really just destroy. But I think they're harder to use than the rest, so be careful that maybe you don't mesh with their playstyle. Speaking of playstyle, guys, and this is a great segue, Kayron is the worst offender in terms of greediness and I think playstyle, with maybe the exception of Orlea, which we'll get to in a sec. But Kayron, I don't have him. I've seen a lot of showcase damage where he just ults with his ego ult, and he like one-shots bosses. Although when I say one-shot, it's so slow. It takes like 5 minutes of him just casting damage over and over. But once again, like the rest of the crew, you build around him, and he works in every mode. Has good AOE. I don't think I've seen people struggle in terms of damage. All right, he can pump out incredible damage, even single target against bosses. Like I said, with his ego ultimate. The only problem is, just like these other two in this row, harder to use, very selfish, and you need to build around him, and you need to like his playstyle, the whole exhaust thing. These characters up here, guys, are a lot more straightforward. You can almost just spam out cards and they work. Kayron, you got to mesh with the playstyle, you got to vibe with it, and you really got to build around him. So that's kind of a similar thing with these three, and I think that's why I rate them just a slight tad below the top ranks. Now we got to talk about the bottom tier and why I view these, you know, a little bit harder to use than the rest, or maybe even more punished by game mechanics. All right, guys, home stretch, we have Magna. Now, Magna, I think, is so cool, and I wish I had her, as she's actually my definition of what I would play as a character. Bruisers. She's a defense scaling bruiser that does a lot of counter, and I love that. However, I think I might have been fortunate because I would have mained her, and with how restrictive it is to build more characters in this game, you could be in a little bit of a dicey situation if you are a min-max player. Now, if you're more casual, you just play for fun, guys, all these characters work, like I keep telling y'all. However, in the current game mode, and let's pull up the game real fast here, I want to show you guys one of the game modes as I am in the process. I just need to get around to it. But spamming chaos is just too much fun. It's under simulation. If we just talk about this mode real quick, the Basin of Hyperspace. There's two different versions, and one of it, as you guys can see here, I still need to finish 3-starring this. Now, I think I have the teams to do it, right? I have high damage teams, but units like Magna and Orlea, which we're going to talk about in a second, as y'all can see in the bottom left here, we have to clear the stage within 12 turns. Now, these are all with auto, so if I manual it, I think I can comfortably do this. But let's say we are working on the harder version, which I also need to finish the 3 stars too. Dimensional Twilight, this is even harder. And these as well, right? 12 turns. And if you're using characters like Magna, units like Orlea, I could see you struggling a bit in finishing those stars. Now, how important is that to you? I'm not sure. It is extra stuff, and this does reset, I think, on like a seasonal basis. So it is kind of nice to have certain characters. In my opinion, I think Smilegate should move away from game modes that need to be like DPS races, as that really just punishes these two characters in general. And if they do that, I think I would actually rate them higher up on the tier list. But for now, the fact that they're not good in certain game modes, then inherently I got to rank them lower than the characters that, you know, just work everywhere. That being said, once again, just to disclaim, Magna I've seen also complete all in-game content. I've seen Magna mains talk to me how good how fun, how powerful she can be. Just be careful that both in the basin, which is like a DPS race, and then certain bosses also that don't attack often, you may suffer if you're doing an entire counter game plan. Now, Orlea is someone I don't have either, and I think she's the most unique playstyle in the game. So even more so than Kayron, make sure, guys, you understand how Orlea works. She kind of like, if you've ever watched Dragon Ball Z, wants to build up, you know, the spirit energy to do a spirit bomb, but it lasts, you know, it's going to take the entire season. It's going to take 10 episodes to cast. So if you're not down with that kind of slower playstyle, where you got to, you know, just hold cards in your hand and then you do a huge nuke, then obviously, you know, don't be distracted by her beauty. Her playstyle is not for everybody. The fact that she gets punished in Basin 2 is why I rank her a little bit lower. However, I actually have heard recently from some Orlea mains that there's some other like epiphany, like save data builds that you could do that actually offset the slower playstyle. So wait to hear on that, but just be aware, right? Getting into this character, you have to be very, very knowledgeable on how the playstyle works. Otherwise, it may not be for you, and you could be super disappointed and not vibe with the you know, the playstyle loop. Last but not least, guys, we have Luke, and I don't think Luke is weak. In fact, a lot of my chat today, I asked what the two weakest characters in their opinion are, and it was always, most of them was between two of these three, but a lot of them said Luke. And I think Luke is actually going to be up here. He could actually just keep scaling up and up and up as long as your gear keeps getting better and better, right? I know all y'all have heard it already, but the fact that we're starting to get into the territory where we're fishing for legendaries, or at least some of us, right, are starting to get some legendary gear. We can optimize for crit chance substats. We can get a main stat neck with crit chance. You can get, you know, just roll for better gear as we're hit higher levels of memory fragment farming. I do think he's going to climb, but for now, I think, once again, he's one of those late bloomers, I guess you could say, so don't pick him just nilly-willy. If you don't have great gear for him, he's going to feel very underwhelming, and not only that, I do think he wants, he is a little bit greedy for dupes, right? I've heard his dupes are amazing, and without dupes, he feels even worse, so both for the gear requirements and maybe possibly the dupe requirements, Luke mains, you let me know in the comments. I do think I want to rate him lower, but that does not mean he is weak. In fact, I think once you get gear and possibly dupes, he's going to be better than, you know, a lot of these other characters that I have listed here. So time will tell. He's kind of the late scaler. All right, guys, we'll wrap things up there. If you have any additional questions, feel free to come by the live stream and you can just ask me anytime, even if I'm ranting about some other stuff. Just post it in the chat and I'll often see it. And I can help you guys narrow down some choices if you need additional help on your selective. But either way, good luck on your summons. I'll talk with y'all soon because we're going to review Yuki. I cannot wait. And thank you so much, as always, for watching. I'm loving the game. I hope you guys are too. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.